Hello, my name is Laura. Welcome back to the land of Kakiak, where I educate my 3 boys at home using the Robinson curriculum as the base of our education. Today is a prep and chat video. I have been working for a long time on a project. Here's my cover. It says spelling assessment and prescription, but I've been calling it spelling boot camp to myself, as I'm planning. And I have printed out my program today. I finally got it printed out. I have just a few things left to do in it, but I'm going to print it out and put it together first so that I can see it all together before I put the final touches on it. So I'm going to prep that while I talk to you about something. I was talking to a new Robinson curriculum member this week, and we kind of got into a little bit of a conversation about picking how I pick my resources, especially in elementary school for the early years. I have a method. So how do I pick my the early years resources? I will tell you. So I've got my handy dandy, I've got my coil binder here, or not coil, I guess it's a comb binder, sorry. I'm going to punch this while I talk to you guys. One down. So the Robinson curriculum, so this is how the Robinson curriculum just saved my sanity, because it really helped me orient and focus my thinking, and it helped me to make a lot of decisions. So even though I call myself RC Plus, and we do extra things, and I use resources that I make and things that I get other places sometimes that aren't RC resources, I still think of it in an RC way, because if you've read the course of study and if you understand the thinking behind the Robinson curriculum, you can apply that thinking further out, if that makes sense. So I was talking to a new RC member, and so we'll just start with where I started in this thinking with copy work. So RC recommends copy work until the age of about 10, and then I think the guidance is to switch over to writing an essay a day. So as you know, I have a whole bridge curriculum I've shared before. I call it my sequences. I'll share it again. I usually put it in the description, and it's a path that you can take to get from copy work to essay writing, right? So I don't expect kids to figure out, to know how to write an essay or to know grammar, things like that, without any guidance at all, and just straight from copy work. But how my thinking goes, because the goal of RC is to end up producing independent workers and learners and thinkers, right? We don't want to be spoon feeding them all the time. And also so that's the benefit really for the child to end up with, right? But on the other side of the same coin is the benefit to the homeschool parent, who it can be easily completely swamped with trying to educate multiple kids at multiple levels. Some have special needs, some are accelerated. Sometimes we ourselves have holes in our own education that we're kind of trying to hurry and fill, so that we can teach. It is really cool though that you get a second crack at your education when you pick up the noble mantle of homeschooling. So my thinking is to pick resources, especially really early on, because when their reading comprehension is very low, early learners, to get them to do anything, you would have to tell them. You'd have to literally speak the instructions to them. You'd have to look at the resources. You have to read it. You have to process the information, communicate it to them, then see how they're doing it. And what you end up doing is what Dr. Robinson says not to do, which is just sitting shoulder to shoulder with that student over them, hovering, helicopter parenting, right? And so that's what I don't want to do. I don't want to do that. I don't want them to think that they have to have mom sitting right next to them, otherwise they can't do it, right? They can't do something. So what I have is a way of thinking where if you can pick resources early on that you may do some training, like you may do some targeted, concentrated teaching or training. You know, they do something, you check it like very frequently or get a lot of instantaneous feedback at the beginning, and then basically once they are trained, then they're just doing that same thing, that same resource or activity or skill practice, whatever it is, your learning routines, right? Your daily routines too fall into this, where you're not having to tell them over and over and over. So, and every day you're having to pour yourself out a little more, right? And then you're doing it for all these different kids. Plus you're trying to like do the laundry and the dishes and whatever, right? So, so I picked, starting with copy work, right? I made my own, because what I was trying to do is I wanted my kids to I wanted them to copy the McGuffey readers that we were reading, but I was like having to like write it out for them so that they would have a handwriting model like in their notebooks. It was just taking forever. So I created copy work, and it ended up just being like absolutely perfect, because then it was just progressing. Like it was so natural. We just did the same thing every day. My kids just open up their copybook and they just do, like, you know, my 7-year-old, he's up to a page, whatever a page is, you know, about 2 paragraphs worth in his copybook. Now, we didn't start out doing that much. We started out with like a sentence, right? We probably started out, if we really simplified it before that, with like words, but I didn't have any copybook work like done yet. I have since then made a CVC like copybook, and I'll link these all down below just in case you can see what I'm talking about. But it gets them, and you can, in the same font, right, that I want them to model, getting used to what is copy work, what is expected. They get used to the routine of, as soon as we're done with our reading lesson, we do copy work. And then I bring it to mom, and she checks it and gives feedback, right? I give positive and constructive feedback, right? And they just progress up, and I have copy work up through the 3rd reader. So in the meantime, so as that, they've been trained on copy work. Now they know what copy work is. It's like a no-brainer, right? And it's just following their reading. So as soon as you get whatever that training done, I don't ever have to teach them that again. That's like years worth of teaching. Done, right? Done. They're just progressing. They're just getting better at their handwriting. And then I started using that. So then you may have seen my other videos. I just made, and I offer these for free, bookmarks, and I use them to mark their books with, their McGuffey readers lessons and their copybooks with, so they just know, you know, they always open up to their bookmark to know where they are in their book. And we started just putting like grammar and reading comprehension things on those. We just start orally talking about it. I don't have to find curriculum like for grammar and reading comprehension stuff for like, again, years. Done. We're just talking about it. And this year, 2nd grade, I started having my 2nd grader in his copy work. Now the things that we've been talking about for like probably like a year and a half before, you know, talking about nouns, nouns, pronouns. We talked about pronouns lately. Proper nouns, we've talked about possessive S's, plural S's, like all these little things I'm just we've been talking about over and over and over because of our bookmarks. Now I'm having him using highlighters mark those things so I can see he's identifying them all on his own without me. I've shared this in videos before, you've seen it. I literally showed him how to do it one time, right? But part of this, and I like Karen at our house has talked about this concept about digging a hole. Like you can dig, if the ground is frozen, you can still dig a hole. You can still get whatever you're trying to dig, you know, a foot down. That's your goal. But it takes so much longer. It's so much more effort versus waiting until that ground has thawed. That's kind of what it's giving you, that time. I don't think we need to have any complicated grammar or writing. Really, I even think I probably did some things too early, you know, looking like I was like, oh, that wasn't as fruitful as I thought it was going to be. And just because you find a resource that says it's for first grade, there are a lot of times they're going off of these Common Core standards, which I personally think that they're forcing these concepts on kids before they're really ready for them. They don't really fully grasp them, and it's just turning into busy work anyways, right? And then when they're actually ready and their brains are like receptive to the information, they're past it, they're not even covering it. So the kids end up with these holes in their education because they're just giving them stuff, presenting it too soon. Anyways, that's my opinion. I had to get a cough drop. I would say find a line of resources, something like copywork. You only have to train them once on it, and then they can just go and just get better at it. Because you're going to have to be hands-on on a lot of stuff, like especially with like reading, right? So I found the same thing to be true. I just love RC. They just so many good ideas. With like, just start with math facts. Like you don't need to do a whole curriculum for math for the first, few years of elementary. Just focus on their math facts. And because their reading comprehension, like I said before, is so low, is not very high, especially when it comes to, it's one thing for like stories, it's another thing trying to get them to learn like mathematical concepts and like word problems. I mean, that's different. That's a whole extra mental gymnastics in there. They're trying to read and do math at the same time. And you can find worksheets anywhere. I wanted to make my own. So I just made my own abacus. I wanted them to learn the abacus. I made abacus flashcards. So that was, again, a resource. I showed them how to do it like one time, and then they got to practice it on their abacus flashcards, right? And if they got stuck, I could come over and like watch how they were doing it. And I made a whole video series on how to use the abacus and do the 4 operations. I'll link it down below for you. But that doesn't require any like reading. As long as they can read the numbers and they understand the operation symbol, then they can just work it. I like to use math worksheets that didn't have a lot of reading to them at the beginning and that looked a lot like their flashcards. So then of course you use flashcards. Again, like, it's so easy. Also, it's going to take a mental load and simplify everything for you and your kids. And the less your kids have to be wondering what they're doing, like that's less mental energy being sucked out, situational stuff that could be going to learning their math facts. So get a nice, boring routine and do it like pretty much almost every single day. Again, I think it's helpful that RC is a 6-day plan. It really contains the chaos, I just have to tell you. Especially if you have a spouse or not a spouse, whatever, maybe it's just you. It's most of the time, it's just me and the kids because my husband works so much. And I need to keep everyone supervised and the chaos minimized. And just having this routine every day, and school included, really helps that. And it also helps my like housework and everything. If the more same things are, then just the more stuff gets done. And then if something odd does come up, I'm not stressed already because I'm not feel like I'm juggling a million things, like, and I have the mental wherewithal to solve problems, right? Or be creative, like making this stuff. I couldn't do this if at the beginning when I was so frazzled because I was trying to figure it out, right? So what do we have here? Pick resources like copywork that you train them basically once and then just check their work, and that could go on for years. I would put off formal grammar at least until probably second and the mid-second grade year. And I would just do a lot of oral lessons, just orally explaining things. I'm going to make a video about some grammar books I have and how we use them and how the kids are really liking them. They like them so much I catch them just looking at the grammar books because they're illustrated. And it makes me laugh, makes me happy, right? I would put off any kind of complicated math curriculum. I would stick to the RC formula of just the math facts until they have those mastered, and then just move right into 5-4. if you want to do, like I do like math worksheets, right? Like I talked about. I have moved into, I do like Rays, but you can do a lot of those orally too, with your kids, and they're very short lessons. They don't have to be really long. But there's workbooks for them. But basically, too, with the workbooks, once the kids are trained and they know how to use them, they can just use them. Olneys, we've been using Olneys, and those are free. I'll link those. I've talked about those before. We'll link those too. Those are really, really similar to Rays. And I actually think I may prefer the Olneys workbooks to the Rays workbook that we get. But I'm probably going to stick with Rays just because it keeps going. But past, just the initial operations. Reading, just read the McGuffey readers. They just do a lesson with you. Awesome, right? And I believe, for me personally, I did a lot of little bridge books and things for my kids to read on their own that weren't on the RC list. And I'll show you a couple. I don't know if I've showed you these new ones. So personally, I just like to keep it really simple, and I want the peace of mind that I know my kids are learning to read and that we're talking about stuff. There's just so much opportunity to grow, and I enjoy the reading lesson time. I actually really look forward to it with my kids. Okay, so it's a storybook. Who makes these? I think it's Cottage Door Press makes these, and they take like classic stories, and they're like reprints of old books. And I love the illustrations. They're like the perfect size. Vintage stories are better, honestly. The writing is better. They're not too tedious, they're not too long. They've got cute illustrations. And they're like classic stories that the kids already know and love. Jack and the Beanstalk, Little Red Riding Hood, The Little Red Hen, and they have like good little moral lessons too, right? Three Little Pigs, Cinderella, Rumpelstiltskin, and Sleeping Beauty, right? So I love these. They have a couple other sets. I have 3 sets. Every once in a while, I just go to Amazon to see if they have made any more, and put out any more collections like this, because I buy them every time. I have a Christmas one. I have another like vintage stories one. And then, so I have my kids, we do reading lessons, and then they start out, and then they have independent reading time where they read stuff like this. These ones I want to say were maybe even a step up. But yeah, these ones are a step up. The first ones we use are actually, I might as well show you this set. This is the first set that I found. Oh, I'm obsessed. Okay, so this one, Little Deer, Little Duckling, The Mailman. I was like, I think I had this book when I was a kid. Mr. Flop Ears, Farm Animals, Jeepers. This was by far this was William's favorite. He loved Captain Kitty. He still reads it every once in a while, but it was definitely, see how this is so much shorter than those. It's like, let me see, Sleeping Beauty. See the difference? And like this is like much longer. These are just little short ones. This one this one like was one of those rhyming ones. Anyways, Little Rabbit's Bath. So these were like the first ones we started them with. Yeah, this one is really for little kids. He has got really big font. So we use these for our reading bridge program, to bridge before RC. And then William did not want to read the George Washington one on the RC list. And then we tried to read the Arthur Scott Bailey books. They just had too many words that he just didn't know how to read in them still. And so we read them together, right? Where I was like, I would read like a paragraph and he would read like a paragraph, and I was there to like help him when he got stuck on stuff, which is fine, but it just took a lot of time. So, it just took extra time out of my day, and it was fine, but if you have the time. But if you don't, I would just give them, these are easier to read. And then, although we went to the antique store the other day, and we found one of those Happy Holsters, which some of these I think are on the RC reading list. I don't know how many. And I want to say this was only like $6. And William saw it, and he's like, I want it. It's The Happy Holsters and the Haunted House Mystery. So he's been trying to read this on his own, but we're still doing our McGuffey reading lessons. So I know he's progressing, and I'm thinking I'm just not going to worry about giving him any independent books until after, on the reading list, until after we get through. He's on the second reader, until we get through the second reader. And then I might try going back to the RC list to see if I can give him something to read like independently. But at least this way I know he's getting his reading in, and I know he's actually learning and progressing because I'm listening to him read like every day. But yeah, and I can't praise the McGuffey readers enough. We actually read both the originals and the revised. My copy work is off the revised. If I had to pick one set or the other, I think I would say the revised personally, but I might be because I'm so partial to the illustrations in it. And you can also get them free. They're in the public domain, so you can just print them off too. I bought hard copies, like an old set, and I just like treasure them. Anyways, so really simple, and I like that these readers, they're progressing, and they have little word groups pulled out to practice, which I like, and they divide them up by syllable, which is helpful for them. We can talk about some of our spelling rules and spelling patterns and phonics kind of rules that we go over in spelling. So again, we're just staying with the same resource, and it's just the same every time, and it's just super simple, and we don't have to relearn anything, you know? Okay, so I think we've talked about math, we've talked about copy work, and some simple grammar stuff, and then we've talked about reading. The other thing I was going to mention that really, simplifying things is routine. Get a routine, just do the same routine every day. That just really helps everybody. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention, that I pick resources that I really only have to train pretty much once, or maybe really intensely for 1 year, maybe first grade really intensely, or second grade whenever you start it, is spelling. So I made a spelling program based off of the the words out of the McGuffey spelling book, and I have weekly spelling packets, and I've said this before, I called them grade 1 through 6, but I wish I just would have called them level 1 through 6, because grades, who knows, whatever grade, but it's just whenever you start. It's what I'm doing. This is going to be kind of maybe a companion, a little boost to my spelling program. It's kind of the same activities every year, but they're just progressing in their depth, if that makes sense, right? They're just getting more involved. And so the kids know exactly it's the same rhythm. They know exactly what to expect. You know, we do 6 days of spelling a week, you know. If they don't pass, if they don't, you know, get like a 90% on their spelling test, we just redo that packet again. And so it's really, really simple, and you know, after a while you're just giving them their new spelling packet, and you might be playing, like I definitely, with my younger one, I'm still playing some spelling games and like checking in with him, but he's mostly doing it independently. So it's like win-win on both sides. Like I feel like I'm doing very little at this point. He's being very independent and building confidence. The more they can do for themselves, the more their confidence gets built up, right? And not in like a phony way, like in a real, substantial, they deserve this confidence kind of way. I hope I feel like I just rambled a whole bunch, but I did get all my hole punches in. I'm gonna go get a comb. I'm gonna comb this. Let's see how it looks. Okay, I hope this is the right size. Was today weird for anybody else? Today is February 4th, 2023, the day the U.S. government shot down the Chinese spy balloon in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of my state of South Carolina. So, odd story. I was like sitting here working on my spelling lessons to share with you guys, and listening to talking about spy balloons, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, I felt like I was in a movie. Did anybody feel like surreal? Anyways, then I had to we were all sitting in here. I just stopped working on my spelling project to see them shoot it down and I'm like yelling, they shot it down, and like my kids, you know, come running in here. We're like watching it online, and where am I? Am I going to make, this is so weird. Am I going to make a video for my YouTube channel today? Yes, I am. I almost checked out of reality. Okay. So my spelling assessment's done. My takeaway is to find lines of products that you like, resources that require upfront training, but that they like build up so much momentum in that training period that it carries them for a really long time. And the resource is gonna provide very little friction to slow them down, right? They just keep going. They just keep getting better at what they're doing until maybe the next level, it just levels up. So copy work is really easy to level up. Obviously, flashcards and worksheets are easy to level up. Readers, they just level up. Spelling, if you get a spelling program you like, it just levels up as long as it's staying in the same, if you find one that has the same basic structure, right? You just want to keep that ball rolling until their reading comprehension gets strong enough that they can just read whatever they need to read and just learn and go, right? Which is probably, I don't know, it depends on your kid, really. I'm thinking like I'm thinking in my mind like six-ish grade or so, right? You see kids like their light bulbs kind of a little brighter. And they get a little more, they want to be more independent too at that age, right? So use that to your advantage to give them something new to do. And I do, like for writing, do more than just copy work. I do this little Evan Moore workbooks, you know, maybe give them one of those a year to spice it up, right? And they can, like, I'm currently doing a story writing Evan Moore workbook with my second grader, and we're alternating days between copy work and story writing, copy work and story writing. That's just how we're doing it. You could pause copy work and just do the story writing. I just don't want to give up handwriting practice and the grammar practice that I incorporate into my copy work. I just, you know, I know they kind of get that in the story writing too, but it's a lot messier process, you know. It's a different skill set. Okay, well, thanks for listening to me ramble on. Today's just been weird. I feel like my marbles are a little scattered. I'll talk to you guys soon.